Shripad. Thank you very much. And a very good morning to Mohit Kapoor, Chaya Sehgal Madam, all the colleagues in Executive Committee of Bombay Management Association, my colleagues from Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, and participants of Leader 2020 and LeaderNXT. It's again a very interesting and very enriching experience we are going to go through. For last few months, for LeaderNXT, we have been listening to the wise words of many of the leaders, and this is one of them. The series is Leaders Speak, and today we have Mohit Kapoor, and we are looking forward for open innovation and strategic leadership, as the title suggests. Last few weeks, we are engaged in the development of leadership and various angles we had seen. The new styles of leadership, the ones which have been proven, all those discussions in the classes are going on. But along with that, the experience and the learnings from the leaders is another enhancing feature for this leadership management program that we are offering since 2019. Today we have with us Mohit Kapoor, an alumnus of NUS Singapore and currently a Group Vice President of Advertising and Innovation in Jio Platforms Limited, the world's largest data carrier and India's largest telco subscriber, based on subscribers and revenue with 400 plus million subscribers. He is also a mentor at JioGenNext, the venture arm of Reliance. Earlier in his career, he held senior leadership positions in multinationals, Alcatel, Haier, Starcom, and Indian consumer electronics giants Videocon. He has also founded two startups, Gulel and Apps Kiosk. It is apt to understand from the leader who has done it himself, the innovation and leading the innovation of a large telecom giant. So I'm very happy to welcome Mr. Mohit Kapoor and all of you to this enriching session of LeaderNXT. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lagate. As you would have picked up from that, in addition to being the incoming president of BMA, she is also the director of the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, and therefore a distinct pleasure to have her here and to also have Ms. Chaya Sehgal here, who has been the advisor and mentor who has really shaped the LeaderNXT program. And therefore, on behalf of all of us again, we welcome Mr. Mohit Kapoor. Mr. Kapoor, we will have a format as we discussed earlier that you, of course, share what you are sharing. And after that, we'll leave some time for question and answers, particularly from some of our committee members as well as the students of the program. So over to you without further ado, all yours. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot. I think it's one of the most generous introduction, but thanks for that. So good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here. And I think the first thing I want to say is that, I hope everyone is staying safe, taking care. These are very unique times, the world and specifically India and some parts of India which are going through. And, I've been firsthand, also managing, some of the COVID issues, but please take care. Today, what I want to talk about is actually very close to my heart. We're going to be talking about innovation and basically the first principles of innovation. And so basically, I will start with few building blocks of first principles and talk a little bit about innovation, and then really talk about some examples. And I'll basically end this presentation with good number of examples of how Jio has or Reliance as a group has successfully used first principles to deliver many firsts and many innovations. So it's basically the examples is right in the end, but this format was important, to basically explain the whole concept. So going forward, let me, one second. So, first principles thinkers, I do not know how many people actually are aware about first principles and about first principles thinkers, but every major innovation which has happened in the world historically, has happened using first principles only. Some of the famous thinkers are, Aristotle, Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, Elon Musk. And if you go through, a lot of his videos, he talks about first principles a lot actually. And, and then all four of them. And I can tell you, in Reliance, our chairman, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, talks about first principles a lot actually. And I'll do some examples as we go forward. But yeah, so the concept is it's nothing new. It's it's historic, and has been in use. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. There. Now, for the people who do not know the concept of first principles, basically, it's a concept where you boil problems down to the most fundamental truths, right? And it's actually reducing the idea down, to its smallest fundamental that can be conceived, and that's how you arrive on a first principle. And I will actually give examples going forward, just to be more clear. But it's a way of looking at things, that you look at categories, but then you start coming down and start looking at subcategories, and you really come down to the smallest subcategory, and so it's a way of thinking, and I will detail that going forward. It's also called the physics way of thinking, and whatever. Yeah. Can everyone go on mute? If there's a query, I'm happy to answer. Yeah. There's some Elongavan who's not on mute. If you can go on mute, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about first principles, we're talking about things which are timeless. They're known by nature. They always will be, are true. So they're not basically linked to who is thinking. It's Aristotle, or it's Elon Musk, or it is anybody, or it's Arun Kapoor. But the truth, the universal truths remain the same. It's just a way of thinking right from that, the foundational principles of, or the bare fundamentals. But let me explain this, what I'm trying to say, through some examples. So let me give you one example, right? So let's say there's a tree with bearing fruits. Now, normally, when we look at fruit, and we come to the point, it's how this creation really came to be. There are actually very few people who have a way of thinking which says, yes, it's a fruit, but where did the fruit come from? It came from the branches. Where did the branches come from? It came from the trunk of the tree. And where did the trunk come from the roots? And what is happening with the roots is basically the soil. So your fruit is more delicious in a good, if the soil is good, and that's the most fundamental part of the fruit, right? So it is. So it's basically first principles is really breaking things down to the last level, right? And you can go further down inside, inside soil as well. What are the nutrients or micronutrients, which are making. So that's just a way of thinking, and I'll discuss this and how this way of thinking, how this has built a large group like Reliance or large company like Tesla, and and globally massive things have happened just by some people thinking in the following way, right? I'll give you one more example just for further clarity. So first principles is basically, it's breaking down a problem. So for example, if we take battery pack, right? Now, so there's this famous example of Elon Musk and battery packs, right? Now, Elon Musk would always break things down. So what is a battery pack? It has got cobalt, nickel, aluminum, carbon, polymers, seal cap, right? And then various proportions. And he figured out that, the cost is about close to $600 per kilowatt hour on the battery, and given the ingredients which are going in, it can be taken down to, and he did take it down to $80 per kilowatt hour. And it was basically, once you have really come down to each and every component, and the smallest subcategory, then it's a matter of putting putting the ingredients together in a smart way, and and to achieve a cheaper battery pack, or do further optimization, etc. But that's a simple way of thinking. So I just wanted to put this out very simply so that everyone understands it. And I know I'm talking very, very simple things, but I'll come and explain going forward how important this concept is, right? So broadly, I can tell you whatever I learned about first principles, I learned it in Reliance, and so I'm actually completing 7 years soon in Jio. I was there in the planning process, and a lot of things I did not understand. Why we spent so much time planning, and I mean, we spend 90% or 95% of our time only on the planning process, and 5% actually on the solution. But broadly speaking, first principle thinkers and conventional thinkers, they are different set of people. The first principle thinker, and there are a lot of them in Reliance, I can tell you, they are ultimate truth seekers. They're never satisfied with only the fruit, and they realize that the search for roots is never ending. So it's kind of a never ending journey, and and many ideas are nested inside and outside of one another. The job of the first principle thinker is to map out how these ideas are interlinked. So it's a lot of thinking we're talking about. And so I think the thing is that powerful questions lead to powerful answers, and by breaking down the problems. And so if you've done if you've thought over a problem beautifully on the at the subcategory level, or at a using first principles, your final idea and product would actually be very true and beautiful. So it's really working on the the smaller parts. And on the contrary, if you look at the conventional thinkers, right, they're mostly the more party set of people. I mean, fruit seeds can be planted anywhere. I mean, because they're just concerned with a focus on fruit only, and the knowledge usually exists solely on the on the product, and all the interesting facts of that product, which can be displayed. And there's not enough knowledge, deeper knowledge about about the product, where it is coming from, what are the ingredients, and things like that. So that's broadly about. But I was surprised that and I was a conventional thinker, and but I've seen the difference, which comes by when you start thinking differently. So I was basically talking a bit about. We might have a much shorter presentation. We'll keep more time for question and answers. So I just set a foundation about a certain way of thinking, and some of the most iconic people in the globe thinking like that, and how this thinking translates into innovation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. See what happens is that, once you are at the very beginning of a problem, right, you can start to create new knowledge and solution from scratch. So for example, it could be any problem you're just solving. You could be building a home, and one way of looking at it is to get a contractor, get an architect, basically work with analogies. You look at how other houses have gone about, and have certain options, combination, etc. But when you really go to the scratch, that what does it really take to build a home, right? It's the foundation, it's the steel, it's the cement, it's the bricks, and what really constitutes into bricks and steel and etc. and wood, and you're already thinking very different. So you really go down to the scratch. So when you create a house or an idea, whatever the case may be, what you're about to create is very different. Because you've really gone to the right to the core. So you you're able to create your own assumptions, and you're able to really create a true innovation. And I'll give you some examples on innovations as well, and how this gets really applied. So, but simply speaking, when you understand the fundamentals of an idea, you can rearrange them, change them, or put them together differently to create a new product or an idea. So again, the point really comes down to the fundamental blocks. Once you understand that, innovation becomes quite, actually, it's never easy, but it still becomes simple. Now, and and on the innovation side, so basically what's happening here is, let me take some examples here. So when you figured out the letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, etc., it's easy for you to do the words. And once you've done the words, you can do the sentences. And from sentences, you can do paragraphs, and from paragraphs to essays to books and the entire library. The important word here is letters, right? In everything which we do. And, and a fundamental component can be changed in order to improve, right? Because a fundamental component, as an example here, is letters, for example, right? So again, once we understand the foundational components of an idea or a product, it becomes a lot easier to integrate a new knowledge and understanding, and then you can transfer as many complex ideas as possible. So I hope the pace is fine. And is it? Let me just open it for now. Any queries? Anybody have any? Or should I just keep going?
Keep going. Don't have any questions yet. Yeah.
All right, great. So I spoke about first principles, fundamental components, foundations, and then I've translated that into innovation. And I'm not going to talk a lot about strategic leadership. I think that's it's changing a lot. The leaders today, have to be, the successful leaders today are very, are and will be very different, and it's and they better be operating with the first principles understanding. And because the world has changed so fast, so quickly, right? But I think I just picked up two quotes, one from Einstein and one from Elon Musk, and I'll probably say a few quotes which Mukesh Bhai mentioned a lot as well. But yeah, I think we're all, as leaders, we are all problem solvers, right? It could be Bill Gates or Elon Musk, or it could be yourself, managing or creating, or whatever the case may be. And as long as we're leading in any situation, the important thing what Einstein used to say is that if I have an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend about 55 minutes thinking about the problem and about 5 minutes thinking about the solution. The magic word here is, spending 95% time thinking about the problem, right? Not the solution. And then, that helps you create, actually, let me just say that much. Elon Musk also, and I think he believes that, he thinks most people can learn a lot more than they think they can. They just somehow sell themselves short without trying. And I'll probably detail that as we go forward, and I'll talk about leadership as well. Maybe I'll share a few things that Mukesh Bhai taught us. I mean, he talks a lot about insight and foresight, right? And for every leader to have both insight and foresight, and then there are tons of examples out there. But let me go back to successful leaders basically being really good problem solvers. And to solve problems, leaders actually spending a lot of time on staying with the problem, and to spend a lot of time with the problem, you really have to break down that problem into the smallest possible fundamental component or a unit, right? And then what gets created is actually very very different. So thinking for first principles is simple, but it's actually not easy. And I'll take you through now some of the few examples. So, okay, and I'll probably just have one which I'll just speak out after these examples. So let me give you just one, let's say, global example, just out of the blue, right? Now, so one innovation story, right, where you see first principles in action, and and you'll see that how important first principles have been, and how central they've been in all important inventions that have happened in the world, right? And so just to give you an example, from the earliest of the times, the soldiers used to carry these messenger bags. And of course, new applications for that bags were created because you can use them for traveling. New incremental innovations that had happened, somebody added chain, somebody changed the material to polymer, and and a lot of these small innovations emerged over time. But actually, the most important problem of luggage was solved only in 1970, which is, some of some of us were born before that, actually, and we think all innovation, what happened centuries ago, and it actually that, and this innovation was done by Bernard Sado. Very simple. He was actually carrying a very heavy bag, at the airport, and he saw a worker carrying a bag, carrying a lot of bags on a small cart, and transporting it to the plane, and that's where the first principles in action, and he thought in a very methodical way that what could be a modern bag concept. It should provide safety for goods. It should be lightweight because you can carry it around. It should be standard size for train and flight. It should be easy to transport, and that basically meant adding wheels in the bag, and and it was more like a mini cart which he saw. But see, sometimes this thinking so simple and at such a foundational level creates massive innovations. That's in a different world right now with a bag which you can, trolley around. So everyone in the class, and I see about 95 or almost 100 people, and there are probably more on YouTube. So anybody can do innovations, by thinking very simple, and and breaking things down to at a component level, and and so as the business problems, as the product ingredients, as many things, but that's how it works. So the other part is, and I think from here we will move to Q&A. I kept it short because I wanted one specific message to go out, because I think the leaders of today need it, and but we'll keep most of the time for Q&A. But let me also share some examples, how first principles is an action in the Reliance group, right? And broadly speaking, if you really go back to Reliance's history, right, when it really started, India had to be clothed, and Reliance got into polyester, and it's today carries a certain weight in the global market, but but Reliance was clear about it operated in a certain way. And then if you look at every business that moved in, from in oil and hydrocarbon, and in even plastics, right? And people's life had to be improved because people needed toothbrushes, things like that. India has to move forward. And then finally, recently, and there's retail as well, and now more recently on telecom. I'm going to be talking mostly on telecom, but all the businesses Reliance moved into, it's actually a story of first principles. But let me just zoom into more, at least, and with my area, or where I the part of Reliance I work in, which is Jio. So I'll share some examples with you. I still remember, and I was part of the planning, when the planning was on in Jio. One problem came to us where Mr. Mukesh Ambani wanted to actually collect 100 million subscribers at a very rapid pace, right? And we don't say it publicly, but we were tasked with a target internally of 100 million in 100 days. Externally, I think we put out 180 days. We delivered that in 170 days, I remember, and with hell had broken, in the that point of time to deliver that. But one of the most critical things to achieve that was that we are able to actually give pre-activated SIM cards, or we basically activate SIM cards in 5 minutes. And if we don't do that, the math state does not work. So how do you really activate so many people so quickly so that we ramp up to the numbers, which is so that's the time the whole Aadhaar-based KYC came around, right? Which Reliance innovated and delivered. So, and it was really the same process of breaking down the government defined process and creating solutions and I can tell you this was first principles in action. So that's one. The second example I'll share with you, I still remember, right? Jio made voice free when it launched 4 years ago, and I still know, and some of my friends say that Reliance is an oil company, they have a lot of, and they can probably afford it. And the fact is, and I've seen the planning, that the real story was that we're an IP network, right? The voice, in case of Reliance, works on data, right? And we did some calculations. We figured out that it costs half gig of data, in a year, to basically, that's the cost of running voice for whatever average number of people, average amount of time people are talking in a day, etc. So, and the data used to cost at that point of time around 200 odd rupees, I remember, per gig. So about 110 bucks in that range was was all it was costing. So just to tell you, right, it would have costed us more to send a bill out for voice, then charging, and so it was a technological innovation, and it was, but there was first principles involved there. There are many examples today, just to achieve the lowest 4G data rates in the world. It has happened with a lot of efficiencies which are run into the network. Reliance or Jio is the only network which does very large part of the network. So we have our own towers, we have our own, ISO. While other telcos actually divide multiple pieces and pass it to the vendors, we actually insourced just to get the pricing right. But you can do it because if you have broken down your entire project into this, to the foundational components, and but it's valuable. And I think this is one thing which can go from Reliance to to other companies, and a lot of companies apply that. This is one of the most powerful things. I'll share one more example, right? So if you remember, just to let you know, guys, that we're about 850 odd million, approximately in that range. Don't hold me for the exact numbers. That's the number of devices which we have in the country. They used to be half feature phones, half smartphones. Smartphones have now grown to about 500 odd million. Feature phones are still in the 350 million range. And the point is that in the smartphone, there are these standard OSs. There's an Android and iOS, which exist, but there's no proprietary OS at the segment below. Now, Reliance had the will, and the courage and the expertise and that to actually build a product like JioPhone, where we build our own OS on top of we call it Kai OS actually. We built the world's first 4G entry-level device in which people are today streaming music, streaming videos, playing games, and host of applications. Made internet possible to a segment which was unimagined, till the time the phone was actually launched. So plenty of those things. Now let me come down to, maybe I'll probably share a few examples. So with all the learnings at a group level, and personally, I can see, for myself and for my team, and what we've inculcated, we were able to apply the same first principles into multiple dozens of advertising partnerships, because what we realize is that because I run advertising business here in Jio, advertising and innovations, and the way we look at advertising. So typically, I've seen Googles and Facebooks and a lot of the OTT players would have very standardized approach. Standardized inventories for you can advertise, etc. on. But when we looked at Jio, we said, okay, we got a lot of things here. We've got We've got JioMart, there's commerce happening there. We've got a lot of physical locations like Reliance Fresh and Smart and Trends. We have Jio Points across India. We have apps like Jio TV, My Jio, and all of that. We realized, see, we broke every possible advertising asset which we had into the smallest possible component, and then the magic is to basically use different components together at different and create innovations for partners. So we're having a lot of fun thinking like that, and we've delivered. We've delivered some extremely award-winning work in spite of being a very small team. And I'll probably just share one or two examples. I don't know if they work. So, for example, this is one idea which we did. I don't know if it works here. Hi, can you? Is the voice come? Can you hear?
It's coming through. It's coming through. Yeah.
ये खत्म नहीं हुआ। इस रैपर के अंदर अभी भी मीठा बाकी है। अब हर कैडबरी डेयरी मिल्क रैपर में है 1 GB फ्री डेटा। अपने माई जियो ऐप से फोटो लीजिए और इस डेटा को गांव के उन स्कूल्स तक पहुंचाइए जहां इंटरनेट की हेल्प से बच्चे कुछ अच्छा सीख सके। कैडबरी डेयरी मिल्क, द रैपर दैट गिव्स। कुछ अच्छा हो जाए, कुछ मीठा हो जाए।
So I'll tell you what's. Sorry. So what was happening earlier this thing. So I still remember with a meeting with Mondelez team, and I think there was a global campaign of generosity. They wanted people to donate, and that was the concept of this thing. And we thought of so the thing is that the way the things work in Jio and that we don't actually go search for case studies across the world and try to replicate them. That's usually I've seen the concept which.
Mohit, I think your voice has gone very low.
Can you hear me now?
Better, yeah.
Yeah, I think it just when I put a video on, it goes down for a fraction. So yeah, what I was saying was that that I still remember when we were working with Mondelez. This is just one example. We've got dozens of examples, and Mondelez had a global case study of the idea was to get people to share and typically the way Jio operates is that we don't really search for global case studies or examples and try to replicate them. We actually think completely afresh, and because it works, it's valuable to do things that way. And a simple idea was that when people go buy a chocolate, they should be able to engage with the brand and they can click a picture of the wrapper, for example. If they're engaging with the brand, then we give them 1 GB of data, on the fly, and that 1 GB of data, the user can then decide to keep it with himself or can donate, right? And this was created. This was a massive success, actually, which we noticed with that. But here there's creativity and technology, and the basic need of the brief of the brand all getting delivered. And so all I'm basically saying is there's a lot of fun in thinking as components. This is another example. This is the last one I have. Then we'll break for Q&A. I'll just probably talk a little about it. This was done with Wheel, and the brand head of Wheel, very dear friend. I think the point was that Unilever did a lot of research and figured out that women in the country, right, especially in the rural belt or tier 2, tier 3, are not working. And the main reason they're not working is that the husbands don't allow them to work. And that came from research. And then idea was, and today, if we can make any impact to that segment of getting women going out and joining the economy, the impact it has on the overall Indian economy is massive. Actually, this is the biggest impact possible. The way we tried to solve that idea was that we actually carried, there's a program which was launched called Ghar Se Career, where there is a number which is added on the Wheel packet, missed call number. You do a missed call on it. We push a URL and you click on it, and you basically did a course for women, to do Silai Kadhai, open a beauty parlor, Hisab Kitab and things like that. Again, it's a highly awarded campaign, but I can tell you for sure that there is no example like that exists anywhere, and it is basically breaking things down to the most fundamental and the most foundational level, and then creating something from there. So these things work. So I'll just play the video.
व्हील घर से करियर में जुड़ने के लिए धन्यवाद। हाथों से किस्मत बुनने चली तू, आंखों में भर ली नया आसमां, रुकी ना रुकी तेरी जिद है ऐसी, सपनों से सजा आशियां। उड़ चल तू उड़ चल तू उड़ चल कहां, उम्मीदों की दुनिया है दुनिया जहां। उड़ चल तू उड़ चल तू उड़ चल वहां, उम्मीदों की दुनिया है दुनिया जहां। थोड़ी थोड़ी सी रोशनी जोड़ के तू भी सारा अंधेरा मिटा। सोई सोई सी ख्वाहिशों को फिर जगा कर सुनहरे कल से मिला। उठा सिर बांध के पर तू उड़ जा, चल तू चल आप भी व्हील घर लाए, कमाने के रास्ते पाए, घर से करियर बनाए।
We're also giving certificates, so yeah, so that's broadly the presentation. I think the main message uncluttered is to basically think first principles basis. So I think you can open for Q&A.
Okay, so thank you very much once again. In terms of Q&A, we already have several questions on the chat box, but I'll be picking some of them and reading them out to you. But before that, I'm joined by my colleague on the BMA Executive Committee, who's also a core faculty for the Leadership Development Program, LeaderNXT. And this is Mr. Jagmohan Rishi, so I'm going to request him to ask the first question. He leads digital strategy and L&D at Walkhart. Jagmohan, all yours, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sripat. And Mohit sir, thank you very much. Great learning early morning on Saturday. So, by the way, my question is that first principle in action is a great concept. I mean, I learned for the first time here. In fact, when I was correlating it, if I correlate with C.K. Prahlad's bottom of pyramid, it was used by some companies and came out with very innovative ideas like shampoo pouches at the pan wallas also. As a result, it opened up a new business for shampoo makers. Other examples can be Ola, Uber, and Airbnb. My question is, how can startups use this concept who have limited resources?
So no, actually, there's nothing to do with resources here. It's just a way of thinking. So
your voice is still bleak.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah, better.
So actually, resources, it's completely unrelated here. So there's nothing to do with resources. It's just a way of thinking. And startups, I think, so every startup, it's unique in its own ways. And the idea really is that they need to really, break down their problem in as at a smallest component level as possible. I mean, if their problem is getting getting to a certain revenue number, now that revenue number would happen if you have a certain customer base, right, with a certain ASP, for example. Now that customer base acquisition costs an X amount of time, and then can there be potential partnerships which can deliver that, for example. So it's just a physics way of doing things, right? Elon Musk talks a lot about that. I think you can check a bunch of these videos, but it's just a way of, and it takes a bit of practice to think, but it's really breaking down your problem into smallest component and then playing around with those components, in various combinations. So idea really is that. So rather than just copying or replicating or looking for best case studies, because no startup, no business, not every is the same. It's all unique situations. So that breaking down that unique situation and then creating something, so it works. I can tell you for sure. Once this is understood, the concept is very, very strong. That's my biggest learning in the last X number of years in Reliance, I can tell you. So I don't know if I answered your question there. So
yeah. Thank you very much.
Please, thank you.
Sometimes the scalability.
Hold on, please. I have a question to relate. I will come to you. Thank you. The next question I'm reading out is from our former president, Mr. Anand Singhania of the JK Group. And he's keeping a bit unwell, so I'm reading out his question. It's a very interesting question. He's saying, in the digital space, what is the balance between innovation, data mining, and privacy issues?
Yeah, that's definitely a very interesting question. Actually, I'll say something, but not with the Reliance hat at all. So I'll say it on a more individual basis. But there are companies who have taken a position like Apple on the privacy side of things for the end consumers. There are companies who have taken positions on that they give things they give everything free, so they need to the data, and data is the only thing they monetize. Otherwise the services go, etc. And there are some people who are in between, right, who are not taking a position till now. I'm not taking any names here because most of these guys are our partners. So that's a scenario today, globally speaking, right? Now, I believe the telecom carriers across the world, have a certain responsibility towards first-party data of users, right? And it's a responsibility, which because so I think the only thing I'll say is that Reliance will step up with its responsibilities. Today, for example, we do not share ad IDs across any campaign we do on advertising side, because we don't open up that data to to everyone, because you can imagine if everyone's data gets open to everyone, what will really happen to the consumer. So that's on the data privacy side, but that's at least where Reliance stands, and some of the other people, the way they stand. Now, the other part was creativity, and what was the other part? Sorry, what was the third thing?
Essentially, privacy versus innovation in the digital area. And so you're doing data mining, as you're being innovative, you're doing data mining. It leads clearly to privacy issues. What's the balance between consumer privacy and data mining? You touched upon it in some way, but if you'd want to.
So, so if there is a company ABC, which, has first-party data, of its users, banks have all the information around on the commerce side, some of the other credit would have all the credit card, so whatever data that gets collected and whatever data mining which happens, within that company, I think that's part of, it's basically helping the companies, better their services, or doing more innovations. And because when they create, so for example, a bank, it has an understanding of who are its premium users, who are the mid users, who are the bottom users, etc. Now, and data mining of by them helps them actually customize the propositions out. Otherwise, everything will be going out to everyone. So in some ways, the data mining is good, but as long as it remains in that within the walls of that particular company. The problem that occurs is that when banks start putting out the first party data, some other company starts putting out the first party data, etc. That's a big threat to the consumer. So I think innovations should continue because growth is the only way. And but yeah, it's a sensitive subject. So some things allowed, some things probably should be checked.
And talking about sensitive subjects, this is a question from me before I go to the next question from the chat box. And this is really in the context of the LeaderNXT Leadership Development Program, where we are speaking about various aspects. And today we wanted to understand innovation from you. And so the classical question, because you work for Jio, is why do incumbents fail to see opportunities for innovation? Is there something, because we teach that it's not just process, it's about leadership, it's about culture. So what do you have to say about that?
So I've seen it, I've seen it very closely actually over the last close to 6-7 years. I think the incumbents let us in. And clearly that was the case. And the second thing is that, the incumbents did not realize the opportunity on data, right? And the thing is that, so I still remember when we were doing our planning, right? And all the numbers, and there were serious investments which were done by Jio, but we had to still put a number of ARPU on which the entire investments have to, operate. And so the fact was that when we, just to share with you, how Jio was thinking, that one is that that when we looked at the ARPU, right, we looked at differently. We said, no, there is 30% of the people who are using dual SIM cards. So there is a capacity to pay more, right? So that's a part of the user base. Second, at the bottom of the pyramid, we noticed that people are actually, walking down to these small shops to get content filled in their phone, right? And they're spending $50 a month to do that. So there is another set of ARPU which is there. So we saw multiple ARPUs, and looked at things, very differently. So we never looked at it as only a $2 industry, $2 ARPU industry, but we looked at that over a period of time, and data would, etc. So it's a longer term view. So that's one thing. The second thing is, yes, Reliance did make massive investments, but if you see the number of businesses which gets opened up, within that investment, right? Today, all the offline investments, we set up close to 6,500 Jio points. So every tehsil in the country has a Jio point of ours, and which was supposedly only telecom, but today there is, that's the point as the retail business is expanding, which is coming into play. So it's one set of investments, but there are cross leveraged across multiple businesses. So I think those are the few things, and the last thing I would say is that I still remember that Jio pumped in the capacities it built for data, right? In the first 170, 180 days, it was 5x of the total industry, right from day one. So let's say the total data capacity was X in the country across all telecom operators. Jio had 5x on day one, right? So I think these are 2-3 things. And so it's, I think, belief. It's a sheer simple thinking and belief of our chairman, which took the industry by surprise, actually.
Yeah, and speaking about that, we have a question from Sandeep Khairnar, which goes the other way. He's asking, are big corporate houses a threat to innovation by MSMEs and startups?
Sorry, coming in, sorry?
Are big corporate houses a threat to innovation by MSMEs or startups?
No, I don't think there's a lot of innovation which happens in large enterprises and corporates. Actually, Reliance, we call ourselves as a startup only, and it operates in a certain way that it has all the features of a startup or a small company, the way it operates. But largely, the large enterprises, they cannot move as fast as the way MSMEs can move. And so the speed, agility, etc., is all in the favor of MSMEs. And so I think, and those things are more important because today what has happened is that, the capital is not a problem, right? And so if you have the idea, the team is right, you can move fast, there is enough capital available. So MSMEs have great opportunity in our country, and versus the corporates and large corporate houses. Even Reliance, right? It still takes some time to move because so MSMEs have great opportunity.
I have 2 questions which I'm combining. I'll read both of them together because they're quite related. One from Sridhar says, how do first principles work in the case of a product or service which is already well established? And from Sandeep, we have, how should we approach innovation when it's very challenging to grab attention of customers with existing brands?
Got it. So the first thing, let me just clarify a little bit more. On the first principles of, because this is such an important concept. I don't want people to just get it wrong. So for example, if I give an example that there is a tank, there's a bicycle, there is a the skiing thing, what do you see as a set of people? Now, the first principle thinkers will see a handle. They'll see the skiing things at the bottom. They'll see a lot of metal. They'll see the stuff which can be used in the tank, and they can probably make a snowmobile, right? So, in a normal scheme of things, who would think of snowmobile looking at these 4 items, for example? So the important thing is that you broke down those four items, which I just said, to such a component level that now you're looking at products which were not seen before. So that thinking is very important, right? Because if you're not getting to that granular level of thinking, then you could actually be wrong. So I just wanted to clarify that. Now coming down to your query, I think it was that what. Sorry, can you just repeat the question? I just want to answer it completely once again.
So there were 2 questions, but essentially they were saying, in an existing business, how do you bring in innovation? How do you innovate when you have existing brands, when you have existing products, existing services? Those questions came in at a time when probably you were speaking about the Jio story, which had to do with entering a new market or creating a new service.
Yeah. So see, first principles, apply to, can the product be bettered? Can the industry be disrupted? Can the cost be brought down to a certain level? There could be a quicker way of entering the market, etc. So depending upon the problem, right? So for example, you need to, the product is costing 100, the current product which you are selling in the market, etc. Competition is at 110 or some of them at 90 or whatever the case may be. Now, very fundamentally, you're making a detergent or you're making a headset, etc. Or let's say you're making a mobile phone, for example, right? And now, really, when you have to start applying first principles, what is a mobile phone? It has some metal, a screen, a chipset, and basically, an audio portion, a video portion, and all of that. And there's a software portion, etc. Now, when you open all that out, right? And I've done that exercise, used to do bill of material of devices, etc. And all of that, and really get to that level first, and then see, can they be just an example of the battery pack, for example, right? I mean, Elon Musk didn't do anything different. I mean, he just basically, or let me take another. So it's basically people have to just apply first principles like that. I'll give you an example of what happened with on the SpaceX, right? And so Elon Musk wanted to launch, a spacecraft, and it checked it. I don't know the amounts it was costing, obnoxious amount of money. And then with all the research and work he did, his team realized that the actual cost of a satellite, in terms of you put everything on from a product side, engineering side, R&D side, etc., it should be costing only 2% of the price it is today being quoted for, and then it basically gathered everything which was required. Today, he's brought down the cost of a spacecraft by 9 times, right? That's the SpaceX cost. Now, that's how, and you will notice Elon Musk talking about first principles to exactly deliver what I'm saying. So there are existing industries which can be disrupted. There are existing products which can be bettered. There are faster ways of entering the market, but it's just that the problem needs to be defined. You have to go a mile deep, and staying with the problem, and then magic happens. Actually, did I answer that adequately for you?
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks. I have a couple of questions which are asking for your views on specific sectors. So the first of those questions is about disruption in healthcare technology, what's new, what's the innovation that India will witness in healthcare as a sector?
I'm actually no expert there, so I don't want to just say anything. But yeah, I think at this time, India is going through a lot. I think we all the help which we are getting from across the world, and how we are grappling with oxygen today and everything. But yeah, I think I'll only say, and it's a very personal thing, that the future is bright. Actually, people, I've never, the level of health consciousness which people are having right now, right, in what they're eating and what they are, they're thinking, what they're taking in, etc. I think it'll be a lot fitter world, in a year, 2 years from now, and the healthcare requirements may only get decreased, rather than the expectation of more monies from the government to on the healthcare. But because end of the day, whatever we've done to our bodies, it's all human created problems, and some of those problems are getting addressed during the COVID times. So yeah. So
yeah. We have an interesting question from Joy D'Souza, who's saying, so it's on the topic of phygital. So he's saying, will digital totally overcome physical? What do you think about phygital as a concept going forward in retail?
So I'll say what Mukesh Bhai says, and I'm just saying his words actually. So he believes that everything which is physical will have a digital replica, right? So there'll be a mirror of that physical. So it is not just about so everything which we see in physical terms today will have everything which we see in the physical side will have a digital replica. So, and that's the real future. The phygital is the real future, and not that that physical is going anywhere or digital is going to be. Today if you look at the overall retail or commerce, etc. Your digital is 6, 7, 8%. It'll go up to 12, 14, 15%. 85% still is the commerce, is the small mom and pop shops, and and all of that. But there'll be a digital layer which will come on across all the physical locations, which is there. So it's going to be, so I think both are going to coexist, and this whole replica of physical is where the large opportunity of digital actually lies. So yes, the future is very digital.
Great. I also have several other questions which are very sector specific, and I'm not sure whether you want to get into those. I'll mention two more of them. And as you said for healthcare, I leave it to you whether you want to make sector specific comments on those. One is with regard to education as a sector. And it says, can you please comment on innovations in the education sector after COVID? And the other is about the banking and payment industry. So it says, what's the next disruption in banking and payment after UPI and licensing and so on? So banking and education, these two sectors, what do you see as upcoming innovations?
So, so I won't comment on the banking sector, and I don't have the requisite expertise there as well. There also, while I know how the industry operates from banking and insurance and credit cards and all that space, but on the education side, I think there's a fundamental flaw in the education system. It is the whole exercise of exams and the education system, unless there's an education system which is making you think rather than so you understand what I'm saying. So this is that we don't get the kids to think a lot, and they're just supposed to be going through the course books and and giving their exams and and get marked, etc., or get in the rut of competitive exams for which they take trainings, etc. So I think, and I haven't seen much of that happening. There is a lot of online universities and online effort, and highly funded stuff. BYJU'S has completely gone this thing, but it's all trying to it's only fast forwarding the existing flaw in the education system. It's not doing anything revolutionary or different, right? And I believe that because our chairman has thought through the education system as well, and broken down, to the really component level of the issues, etc. And there is a university, which we are launching as well, called JioGenNext, etc. I think some of those things will get addressed. I think that's one thing. The second thing is that this whole situation of we have X number of kids in school, and after the school there's a big drop in terms of students getting to the college, and after the college there's a big drop of students getting to the universities, and then so I think there are plenty of things on education, and I don't think anyone is addressing it. Yeah, and especially BYJU'S, with the kind of monies they have raised, I don't think there is anything which is. I'm personally saying it, which we can say that which is India changing, or which is anything which to look up to actually. So that's personal speaking.
Right. So I'm mindful of time, and we are going to take one last question, and after that we are going to invite everyone to come on video, and we'll take a group photograph for memory. But this last question is that are there any failures in innovation that have taught you a big lesson?
No. I mean, failures actually, they just we're not failing enough if we're not. We fail a lot in Reliance, and there's no way you can succeed without failing. I follow a very portfolio approach in my life. I get into 10 things. I know 7 will fail, 1 or 2 will be okay. 1 will probably return all the monies and time I've invested. So failures they're just stepping. I mean, they're just ways to find out how not to do a particular thing. So it is. I mean, when I hire people, and if I can really find people who fail once or twice, I know it's the greatest decision I can make. And so failure is, at least for me, and I think we value that because we're an entrepreneurial organization as Reliance. We love entrepreneurs, and I don't think there's a single entrepreneur out there who has reached wherever he is reached without really any. Bigger the failures, bigger the setbacks, bigger opportunity he has on his hand actually. So failures and innovations, definitely things will fail.
Great. So we are right out of time. I'm going to invite.
Can I just make a point?
I think we are out of time.
On the last question, I got
questions which are. Okay, please go ahead.
The instance of Bill Gates, he was looking for failed managers sometimes, the managers who failed in serious efforts. So he thought the failing itself is not a disqualification, but the idea behind that. It's just a thought I thought I will add.
Do you have a question?
I have no question, but this is part of the previous question. What lesson have we learned from the failures? So there was man was looking for the failed managers. Okay,
interesting. Thank you. So I will now request Ms. Chaya Sehgal, our past president, who's also been the mentor and the person who, to a large degree, conceptualized the LeaderNXT leadership development program, which has been running successfully since 2019, as Kavita ji said at the start. So, Chaya ma'am, if you can please come in and contextualize for us the last of this year's Leader Speak series, and really give us your concluding remarks, which we always look forward to. And after that, we will have all of us on video for a Kodak moment. Kodak is probably not here. I'm being mischievous because it's a talk on innovation and for using the word Kodak. But Chayaji, all yours.
Thank you, Shripad. Thank you for that mischievous comment before I come in, because it really helps. I have to begin with thanking Mohit for an insightful session on strategy and open innovation. Mohit, we all have greatly benefited from your first-hand involvement and experience with Jio, which is endorsed as one of the greatest examples of empowerment through digital innovation in telecommunication. Here, I would like to share that India's flight of affordable excellence to Mars, which also distinguished us as the first country to have succeeded in its maiden attempt at a mission to Mars, fits in perfectly with the first principles of innovation discussed by you. If you reside in any major city in India, a ride in a three-wheeler taxi to Mars would cost you $33 million more than the Indian Space Research Organization expended to dispatch a spacecraft to the same destination. The Mangalyaan cost only $74 million, about $25 million less than the Hollywood film Gravity, making it the most economical, successful interplanetary mission in history. And ISRO accomplished it by working from the grassroots, reusing the same core structure and systems as the lunar orbiter, but by prioritizing homegrown materials and innovative technology over foreign imports, fuel and cost efficiency, using gravity and its own propulsion systems to enter the Mars's orbit, and many such initiatives. This is exactly what you tried to explain, that working from the grassroots and redefining and redesigning the idea is what becomes the basis of an open innovation. So with your masterclass now, we also conclude this joint L&D initiative of BMA and JBIMS based on the recommendations of World Economic Forum targeted at senior high-performing corporate leaders, wherein the inaugural speech was delivered by Mr. Pramod Bhasin, founder of Genpact, and presently working as the chairman of Clicks Capital. And the celebrity speakers, Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, who is the current chairman of Manipal Global Education, Dr. Ritu Anand, senior vice president and chief diversity officer at Tata Consultancy Services, Ms. Deepali Nair, director marketing India and South Asia, CMO at IBM, and Ashish Bhasin, CEO APAC and chairman India, Dentsu Aegis Network. They've since then delivered the special sessions on a variety of topics such as congruence of purpose, cognitive diversity, and digital leadership. We're immensely grateful to each one of them for sharing their wisdom and knowledge with all of us, and including to you. I know under what circumstances, Mohit, you have accommodated us, even if we postponed it, but I am all appreciation and admiration for you for having fought at your domestic front this pandemic and still making it possible to be here today and share your knowledge and expertise. As an advisor of this niche collaborative initiative, I wish to acknowledge the tireless efforts of Dr. Kavita Laghate and the core team comprising of Shripad Ranade, Jagmohan Singh Rishi, and Vaijayanti Naik, our esteemed faculties, which also includes our former president Nirmala Mehendale and EC member Prashanti Reddy, current president Professor R.S.S. Mani, and former presidents whose attendance in these sessions encouraged us. Today we had with us Anand Singhania and Suresh Matre. Thank you, Anand and Suresh, for joining us. And on some other occasions, we had Indrapal ji, Dr. Kondap, Shri M.D. Agarwal ji, and all high-profile participants, BMA, EC members, and JBIMS faculty members who are my colleagues, BMA members, secretariat, and students community. We have been able to create and provide an innovative educational offering with your support and committed involvement in this environment where pandemic has really held everybody's hands backwards. But then, of course, it has also opened the virtual medium where now we are able to get people who it was otherwise very difficult to get. So thank you all. And we look forward to coming up next year with I think another model, which is going to be relevant for what is going to be then applicable, what is going to be adding value then, and what is going to be serving as a great tool for the leadership development. We are also looking at creating many more models. It's just like a startup where the prototype has been successful last year, and now we are looking at expanding this. And so Mohit and all other speakers whom I mentioned earlier, we'll request your involvement and we'll request your support during those programs also. As and when we launch, we'll stay connected with you, Mohit. And thank you so much once again, everybody, for joining us.
Surely, Chaya. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And may I, before anyone goes away, may I request everyone, absolutely everyone, to come on to video, because we want to have a group photograph and we want to see your smiling faces this morning. Saturday morning is a great time to have chai coffee with people. We can't do that in person. So let's all come on camera. All the LeaderNXT participants, yes, I see you coming on camera. My colleague from the BMA Secretariat, Supriya, is going to take the screen photographs. I think there are many screens because we have filled up the entire 100. So we have to keep smiling for some time. Supriya, you can tell us once you're done clicking all of us.
Excellent session, Mr. Kapoor.
Thank you, Bigganji. I saw you now. Thank you for joining us in.
I was meeting the students for the SIP. The SIP is starting. Initially, I could not join.
Yeah.
Later on,
Mohit Bigganji is also our executive committee member, and he is the director of SIES Institute of Management.
Good morning. Good morning, Mohit.
Nice to meet you.
So we have been, our smiles have been captured in the camera, Supriya tells us. Thank you once again. Thank you to everyone for attending this morning, choosing to spend your time with us. And Mohitji, thank you so much. I personally found it very insightful, and the attendance of all the other dignitaries made it really special for us. Thank you everyone in the audience. We will close this here formally. If some of us want to stay on for a few minutes, we can do that.
Thank you, Shubhad, and thank you, Mr. Mohit.
Thank you all. It's a wonderful session. Very knowledgeable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
For me, close YouTube.
Yeah.